Hello and welcome back, everybody. I'm Dan John, and this is danjohnuniversity.com podcast. This is episode 228. Each and every week, I sit down and answer your questions. If you have a question, please send them in to podcast@danjohnuniversity.com. I do my best to answer every question. Sometimes I get a lot of medical questions, and I don't feel very comfortable answering those because it's, I didn't go to medical school, and I try to stay in my lane as a strength and conditioning coach. But if you have questions, you send them in. This is a question-driven podcast, so it really helps if you have questions. Our first question today is a good example of the kind of question I like to answer. It's from Francisco, and of course, I'm writing this I'm doing this podcast at a certain time of year where if you know the movie Elf and you hear the word Francisco, you're supposed to say a certain thing. I'm a big fan of the armor building complex. Now we have two versions of that. Let's just say the double kettlebell one first. You take two kettlebells, ideally the 24s for a man, two cleans, one press, 3 front squats, put it down, your partner goes, and then you repeat, go, I go, you go, I go, you go. I've been able to complete it for 30 rounds with the double 24K, which is good because that's 30 presses. Yeah, that's not bad, but that's 90 squats, and that's a lot of work. I've also tried the new single kettlebell version, and I enjoyed it very much. Thank you. The single version, obviously, is for a single kettlebell. It flows well if you just have the courage to just get in the zone and do the reps and not overthink it. Boy, that's money right there. That is it right there. Let me summarize everything I'm ever going to tell you on this podcast. Make a program, do it, then talk about it, fix what needs to be fixed, write the new program, do it, fix what needs to be fixed, and do that a while, and then all your dreams come true. Like many, I have a pressing issue, my press, that's funny. Not with a 24K that I can do just fine. I just can't get myself to press the 32K kettlebell even for one. I can clean it, rack it, and with the push press, I can weight or walk with it. The one thing, Francisco, I would just say, and that's why I'm not a huge fan of having every varietal of kettlebell. When I first started, there was the 16, the 24, and the 32. And I got to tell you, I like that. But the first one I ever got was the 28, which is between, obviously, the 24 and the 32. And I like that because for a lot of people, the progression of 24 to 28 to 32 in the press was so much more reasonable and logical. Like you noted, you could probably, if you can, clean and front squat the 32s for 3, you can probably do a couple rounds of it. But if you can barely press the 32s, we have to come up with a solution. And that's our question for today. I believe you mentioned, hope I'm not misquoting you, happens all the time, I'm fine with that if I can't keep up with the press, maybe just stick to the clean and squats. Yes, that's what I tell people at the RKC certifications also. If you can't keep pressing, just clean, and then squat, and I tell them just add 1 squat more. It really should probably be more like 2, but these are tired people on a Sunday workout. And that the armor building complex should be done fairly heavy, and I think so. My question is, which is a better option to get the most out of the armor building complex? Deal with the pressing issue by pressing a lot, do the rite of passage, and in the meantime, stick with a weight one can press, do the program as written, and leave Dan John in peace. Go heavier but suppressing the press, cheating by replacing the press with a push press. Now, what's great about, and this is why I think it's really great that you asked the question, and this is why I wanted to emphasize this answer, is that you figured out what I was going to tell you. That is exactly what I tell you. First, I like your idea about doing the rite of passage. For those who don't know, it's the standard RKC program. Honestly, of all the kettlebell programs I've done in my life, and Mike Warren Brown will tell you this is true, we constantly come back with this It's very simple. Let me just go for those you might not know it. Clean and press, one kettlebell, clean and press left hand, clean and press right, and do one pull-up. That's the variation we use. Then you go 2, 2, 2 pull-ups, 3, 3, 3. You work your way up to 5, 5, 5, and then you go back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those are called ladders. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the kind of the graduation workout is when you do clean and press left, clean and press right, pull up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times, which gives you 75 reps in the clean and press left, the clean and press right, and the pull up. And I got to tell you, if you have pressing problems, it's a great program for that. After that, you would do a set of swings or a set of snatches and call it a day. And it is a marvelous program. So if you're doing that and you're going to do the first option you gave us, doing the rite of passage, maybe I would suggest that in a typical 3-day workout week, you do the heavy rite of passage day, which would mean, since you're still struggling with the press, but maybe single press, you might have to get the 32s, but you would make that the heavy day, maybe Monday or however it works out in your schedule. Rite of passage, stick to the program. You're going after it, get in there and get it done. Be intelligent, do some swings or snatches after. The Wednesday of that week, the lighter armor building complex, for you, the 24s. And now on the third day of the week, the Friday, whatever, I would lighten up the clean and press quite a bit. And so it's going to be a light clean and press, your rite of passage day, and maybe do some high rep snatches. So Monday is a swing day. Day 2, the Wednesday, would be the clean press front squat work. And then on that light day, you're doing the ballistic snatch, maybe even the snatch test or some, whatever version you want. I think that's a really good option. And of the 3, that's the one I would go to first. The second answer, the second resolution you have here is go heavier, but suppressing the press. I tell you, there is a value in that of, get double 32s, 2 cleans, 3 front squats, 2 cleans, 3 front squats. I think one of the best exercises to prepare your press is the front squat. Now, I believe that with the Olympic lifts too, if you could just have a real solid foundation underneath that bar when you go to press, you're gonna be a much better presser. So this would have value. What I'd like you to do on that is, I wouldn't do this weekly, but maybe once every 2 weeks or even every 4 weeks, do that workout as you said, and then just get a sense of it, wait 2 days, and then check in with yourself. The problem with doing all those heavy front squats without the press as kind of a limiter, like, I don't know if you've ever driven a golf cart, they always put those little devices on them so you can't drive them very fast. The press is that in the armor building workout. And I'm wondering if you could maybe overdo it, but you could leave yourself a lot sore, or maybe even that long-term tired you get from hard squat workouts, max deadlifts and hard squat workouts. You get that long-term, like, I did that 3 weeks ago and I'm still tired. I want you to avoid that. And then finally, cheating, replacing the press with the push press or push jerk. I think this is a really good answer. The only thing I would say is when I do teach the RKC2, we do that as one of our workouts. So we do clean, push jerk. That's the one we use. And clean, push jerk, clean, push jerk. Just say like 3. Everyone puts the weight down, and there's no oxygen left in the room. Everyone's sucking air. So it's a little bit harder than you think it's going to be. And I don't know why. I mean, I could just invent some theories, but doing the ballistic overhead work seems to be tiring Now, is it because you're driving weights over your head and there's that sense of danger? If you're ever scuba diving and you want your air supply to run out faster, just, be around a bunch of sharks, and, you'll, even if you're mentally calm, you're still ramped up. I wouldn't suggest that for most people. So I like all three options. I like option number one, the rite of passage, mixing in what you've been doing at the ABC Armor Building Complex. Option number two, I think might be a fun thing to try out once a month at first. Okay, just substitute it in on that ABC day, and then after you do that, give yourself a couple of weeks, and then try this idea of the push press, push jerk, and just try it. Because if your technique's not good, just say, okay, that this was a bad idea. But there might be another listener who's good at the push jerk, for example, and be like, oh yeah, this is exactly what I need. So Francisco, if I was there with you, or even any other really qualified coach with an eye, we could kind of just sit there and go, oh, yeah, you're fine. Okay, that's a good idea. You're going to have to use a lot of self-regulation on this, and that is hard. So if it doesn't work, that third option of the push jerk, push press, just go, okay, it doesn't work. But there's other listeners who probably will get something out of that, because now that the ABC has become like really this thing, I thought the 10,000 swing challenge was over the top with how popular it was. I think the ABC is jumping ahead of it. I can't believe how many people tell me they do this as their foundational, this is my workout. But a lot of people are starting to run into the walls of this workout. And for you, it's the press. For me, it's the fact that I get really tired and sweaty. Thanks. Fantastic question. Thank you. We have a question from Chris. If I remember correctly, you mentioned in a long ago podcast, sounds like the Star Wars, that you make your own sushi ginger and pickled onions, as it is significantly lower in sodium and sugar than the store-bought options. Can you share your recipe method specifically for ginger? No. I go to the Korean market over here on State Street in about 44th, and I buy their sushi ginger. It is a fantastic thing. I buy them in a very large bag, and it's really inexpensive. When I come home, I rip it open and I put it in a mason jar, and I just pull it out as I wish. I couldn't possibly make the sushi ginger for as cheap it is for me to buy it. It would take me hours just to slice the ginger. On the pickled onions, I've done that in the past. I use chef eggs. I'm sure if you Googled it online, you could find a simple pickling, and really it's more like there's a tiny bit of sugar, and then you have salt in it, but mostly it's ice cubes, and you put everything in a jar. You throw in a little bit of sugar, you throw in a little bit of salt, and then you put the ice cubes and you shake it up. It's not true pickling. I mean, it is pickling, but it's not what you would consider like what I do with sauerkraut. Now, I do make my own sauerkraut, and I got to tell you, I don't know of anything easier than making your own home sauerkraut. Oddly, haven't done it in a while. I haven't done it in a while. There's a couple things I've been not doing a good job on lately. And I generally always have like my Greek salad mix in my fridge. I generally have my secret oatmeal in my fridge, and I generally have my own sauerkraut in my fridge. Right now I don't, but it's also because here in the United States, while I'm speaking, it's kind of the most busy social time of the year for me. So kind of hard to, make sauerkraut and, cook a turkey at the same time. They both take a little bit of counter space. Good question. I always like the questions about food. Folks, fermented food is wonderful. your fibrous vegetables, your fermented foods. I do think these help with your health. Whether or not it, gets you to a 400-pound clean and jerk, I don't know, but it is good for your health. And that's something you want to think about long term. And, at the age I'm at now, and, I'm not that many years away from moving into the next big master's class. My next master's weightlifting and throws class is 70. And I'm really glad I take care of my health. I think about my health as much as I think about my performance. So good question, Chris, and thank you. We have a question from James. James, this is the third question in a row that where people have referenced the podcast, which I think is wonderful because it allows me to realize that we're more now in what I consider the way I want to do this podcast. We are building on questions from the past. It's a much more communal aspect, and that's the way I coach, so I really appreciate that. James says this: from listening to the podcast, it seems you favor hinging over squatting when the goal is athleticism. Yeah, I'm going to agree with you, but then my head just filled with asterisks. Yeah, see below. But you're right. Generally, for athletic endeavors, the hinge movements tend to work better on the field of play, the pitch, the court, the ring, whatever you have out there. Squatting movements are great for your longevity. Squatting movements are great for building mass, wonderful for building mass. So if you are in a sport where you got to be big, there's not that many. American football, rugby, sumo wrestling. There may be a few others, but just having a large body mass is only valuable for a few sports. So squatting in those sports becomes very important. But if you want to knock somebody on the ground really hard, it's your hinge that's going to do it for you. You also say that many people are either born hingers or squatters, but not both. That's my theory. It could be completely full of crap. But here's the thing. Sometimes I have these beliefs that will not stand up to scientific rigor. Having said that, those same beliefs make it a lot easier to help an athlete go from here to here. If I was going to wait for the science to catch up for the things we know in track and field and weightlifting, we'd be all on machines doing, a couple of sets of 8 and then never lifting again because we got the benefits in our 6-week study. I know what I mean. I hope I explain it. Does it therefore stand to reason that hingers are more athletic than squatters? I'm a natural squatter and was never very athletic at school and college team sports, but I'm okay in long distance cycling and running. For some reason that I don't understand, I'm a naturally good skier. Well, so this is where the joy and beauty of having an entire matrix, an entire system of coaching comes in. I like this question, James. How helpful is a 600-pound deadlift? I think you're British or Canadian by some of your spelling. It's always funny when I correct my students in England. I'll correct their spelling. It's a joke. I don't. Okay. There are, having a 250 kilo deadlift is great, but is it really going to help carry over to, cross country skiing? Probably not. Downhill skiing? Yeah, maybe it does. So even when you say something as simple as, I'm a very good skier, my job as a coach is, what do you mean by that? Now, if you're a biathlon athlete, that's the shooting and cross-country skiing sport, that's going to be a subtly different for me as a strength conditioning coach. We're going to look at a few things different for that sport than we are for somebody who's a cross-country ski skater or somebody that's here in Utah. About 40 years ago, something called telemarking was really popular. So it's basically using cross-country skis to go downhill. It's kind of disappeared a little bit, to be honest with you. So even in something as simple as saying skiing, there's going to be little small changes. I think what happens, James, is, and I applaud you, I really do, because you said college team sports, athletic at school. You're good at cycling and running, and you're a very good skier. One of the things I think I like about what you said there is if I go to a school as a child that only has one sport, and it's common in some places. In Ireland, in certain parts, there's the 3 traditional GAA games. In England, you can probably tell the income levels of the school by whether they choose rugby football versus soccer, association soccer football. Different parts of the world where if you're from certain parts of Southern California, maybe even Hawaii, you're going to be exposed to surfing, and there's going to be kids who are naturally just born better surfers. And if all you're going to do is surf or play soccer as your school sports, those people who are kind of got the DNA to do them are going to stand out. You feel bad for that kid who's 7 foot tall trying to play on the soccer pitch, and yet that same kid, you put him in volleyball and he's the greatest kid of all time. Take the same kid and maybe put him over the basketball court, and maybe he can pay for his education with his height. So one of the things I'm just kind of warning you about, James, I stand by my hinge squat, push, pull quadrant. I do, because I think it's a nice, it's a gateway. It opens the door to looking about what this athlete needs to work on. I'm working with this superior discus thrower right now. Absolutely amazing. And I was training her in my traditional method, the Olympic lifts and, this and this. But I realized with her, when we started emphasizing the squat, which just makes me laugh to think about this, because I have her do high rep back squats with chains, and we do all these variations and all this stuff. The squat helps her throw the discus farther. I've been coaching the discus since 1979. I've been throwing the discus since 1970. And I've had my athlete squat before, but this is the first pure squatter I think I've ever had. And she's clearly a better thrower when we focus on the back squat, which most of my career I would say, back squats are worthless for discus throwing. Hyperbole. There's value. But for her, it's a game changer. So, James, we come to several quick points. First, I applaud you for, kind of looking around in the sports and games world and finding things you're good at. I tell you, the best thing you can do for your child is expose them to as many sports and games as possible. If little Billy or little Sally comes home one day and says, I don't know this game very well, but I sure enjoyed playing it. And, oh, really? And I was pretty good at it. There's where you want to, especially if they've done 22 other things that they didn't say that about, there's the one. My first day of judo, my first day on the mats, I barely learned how to put on a gi. I think that's what it was called, a gi. I was out on the mats, and I was really good at it. Now, being the youngest of 6 and a home that we, basically we were at war with each other constantly, maybe I had some built-in advantages. But of all the sports I've ever done, the most natural I was at judo. And sadly, because of the way things worked out, my career went in a different direction. The more sports you get exposed to, the more you realize what your gifts are. It would be a fun little thing to do. Oh, that'd be an interesting. So all you listeners at danjohnuniversity.com, we're all going to meet someplace, and we're going to do 5 different things today. We're going to kayak, we're going to canoe, we're going to cross country ski, we're going to ice skate, we're going to do a triathlon. We're going to do over a 10-day period, 50 different sports. 3 hours at a time, and whatever one you think you're the best at, we'll go that way. What I just said is insane, but you know what? There's some value in that. So, James, the most important athletic movement to anybody I work with is the ones that bring them closer to our goals that we set. For me, once I started squat snatching, my discus went a lot farther. I assumed that was the answer to all questions about the discus throw, and I was wrong. So when I have an athlete like I'm working with now in the back squat, which is a great exercise, helps her throw farther, then that's what we stick to. Sometimes being a strength and conditioning coach and being a technical coach or a team coach can get a little boring when you just keep wiping away the things that are less important to the things that are crucial and key. But that is my entire coaching method. What are the 3 things that are going to get you to be the best at your sport? And that's the question I ask every professional I interact with. What are the 3 keys to your sport? What are the 3 best drills? And if you give me good information, if I coach that, I will pound that and pound that and pound that. So thank you very much. Fun question, James. We've got a question from Callum. Callum, good to hear from you. After a few years of training, I now know that the clean grip deadlift is my go-to deadlift variation. So clean grip is just the standard grip like this. That is your competition deadlift. And of course, the snatch deadlift would be your hands almost out to the collars. And if you're taller, out to the collars. I did a gym max lift of 145K this evening at a weight of 93K for your information. For reasons that aren't important for this discussion, I can't hook grip or use the mixed grip, which is why I need to now use straps to add load. Do you have any tips and or insights on how to transition to using straps with the aim to get at least close to a double bodyweight deadlift, and maybe also how to improve the clean grip deadlift itself, as I love the lift, please? I remember you saying you had lifted a huge weight before Dick showed you the mixed grip, and I couldn't remember the relationship between that and your max deadlift, but it was a cool story. Okay. Interesting. Colin, and for those of you who know my career, my favorite deadlift variation is the snatch grip deadlift. As I mentioned earlier, when my squat snatch started getting better and better. Oh, by the way, sometimes I'll say squat snatch just to clarify that from like the power snatch or other variations. But the snatch grip deadlift, I mean, I started doing those in 75, 76. And that's when I fully figured out what it meant to be linked together, knitted together. And I think I had to get my arms away from my body to teach my upper body to lock everything down. I'm also a fan, correctly done, in the deficit deadlift. And the way I teach it, if you know my work, I'm a huge fan of the Romanian deadlift. But I actually think that if you do deficit deadlifts and you try to do them, so a deficit deadlift, folks, is when my feet are on platforms and the bell is going to slide through them. I use Brett Contreras' deficit deadlift. It's just that it's the T handle. Back in the day, I used to call those the Hungarian core blasters. It's interesting because that information is in Tim Ferriss's book, but there's no, he talks about the Dave Draper form, but there's no mention of, that, me and a bunch of lunatics came up with the modern version, which is just funny to think about. But the deficit deadlift, you either use a big kettlebell, or you probably could hold a dumbbell like this, though. I always struggle when I have a big dumbbell and all I got is my fingers around the end. I use the T-bar, and you stand tall, and I like to so I'm on the platform, stand tall, and I like to let the weight drift backwards a bit to make it more swing-like. And then when I feel my hamstrings really start to stretch, that's when I know it's working best. Done correctly, the snatch grip deadlift, done correctly, the deficit deadlift are very helpful in sports performance. They both teach you things about the human body. Now, for most people, though, you'll notice most of the time in my recommendations, I recommend the rack deadlift, where you bring the weight up. Now, in the deficit deadlift, you bring your feet up. In the rack deadlift, you bring the bar up, and either 1 inch below the knee or just above the knees, and you deadlift that way. I find that's the easiest way for people to get a true hinge, and we don't get that lower back ouch. And if something goes wrong, you just drop into hits. Those are my deadlift variations that I like the most. The clean grip deadlift, by the way, is probably the one I personally hate the most, because I might as well clean it if I'm going to do all that work. But the story is in the 198-pound class, 90 kilo class at the gym record in the deadlift was set by a power lifter who deadlifted 550. And so one day in working out, I said to Dick, I said, is this heavy? Can I break the record? He goes, well, let's find out. And we loaded up 555. And as I was walking up to the bar, Dick just said, oh, and hold your hands like this. And he told me to use that mixed grip. So my first heavy deadlift was 550. And then on a bet with Bob Arillo, I deadlifted 6. And then in a weightlifting meet, because Utah State needed a 100 kilo lifter for this powerlifting meet, I found out about it on Thursday and I lifted on the meet on Saturday. I deadlifted 628 because that was 5 pounds more than the last person to fail. And that's my deadlift history. So how do we improve your clean grip deadlift and use straps? Well, the one thing about straps, now there's a downside to straps, and they become very addictive. And I think that's okay. When I was young, there was a big controversy about whether you should ever snatch or clean with straps. I got some good advice, it might have been from Jim Schmitz, that using straps on the clean and the jerk was really brutal on your wrists. And as a thrower, I couldn't afford to do that. So I just followed that. It is interesting, if you ever want to just instantly improve your Olympic snatch, put on straps, because you will lift more, which will give you an insight about the importance of grip work for Olympic lifters. So if you're going to use straps, I'd recommend this. This is what I think. I think you should, while you're learning straps, should use straps on every single set. So if all you've got is on the bar and 2 bumpers, 60 kilos, strap up, because what you want to do is you want to learn that, I can't explain how to use a strap because it's like I can't explain how to type anymore, because you get so used to doing it, you forget the little learning curve. Like I can tell myself, okay, I'm gonna put my hand on a bar with a strap right now. I can do the little finger work it takes to slide it in. So I would suggest that you strap yourself into the bar. Now you're strapped in. Then you replant your feet, you reset your hips, you break up, I don't know, whatever phrase you want to use. You put a pencil between your triceps and your lats, and you try to break it, and you do the Mr. Universe chest, and drive your chin up, and even with 60 pounds, drive those heels into the ground and stand up tall. And as you progress up 60, 70, 80, 90, however you do it, use the straps, because you got to practice using straps. This also lends us to the downside of straps, is your grip does get, well, 2 things happen. You might lose this crush grip that you need, one of the great benefits of the Olympic lifts and the deadlift. And number 2, your hands might get soft. Now, there's nothing wrong with soft hands. It's funny because I still have calluses on my hands here, but when I do certs, I don't grip my hands because my hands continue to have a little bit of toughness to them. If you, this is going to sound so strange, but it's true. If you use straps all the time, your hands soften up so that if you ever don't have straps, you can tear your skin. I know that sounds insane, but it's true and it happens. So I think this is a really good idea. I would say strap early and often. Make sure you lock in everything before every single rep. And, I don't know if you touch and go on your deadlift or you stop and recover. But with straps, when you stop and recover, we used to drop our head down and raise our hips up for a second. So I'm on straps, weight comes to the ground, I drop my head down, I lift my hips to the sky. It's kind of a hamstring stretch, but also takes some of the tension off. Loosen your arms, but you keep the straps on the bar, and then re-lock down and go. I hope that made sense. I know I'd like to say, it's funny sometimes before I answer a question. I think I know what I was talking about there, but the clarity of my explanation probably needed some love. So thank you, my friend. That's a good question. We got a question from Pat. Now, Pat's asking a question that, it's the idea of, you're chasing two rabbits at once, but let's chase his rabbits with Pat, her rabbits. What's the simplest, most efficient way you would have someone train if they wanted to both increase their numbers on a body weight exercise, push-ups or pull-ups, and also increase their max strength? For example, do more push-ups and also increase your max bench. Welcome to what I did in high school. Would you have them focus mainly on just weights or body weight training, or would you have them do a combination? Yeah, so when I was young and we still were getting tested on those push-up tests, which I tell you one thing, if you ever want to ruin a team before a game, have them test in the PE classes. My whole team, we couldn't bring our hands together when practice started because of all the push-ups we had to do. But the way you increase push-ups, pull-ups, and any calisthenic movement is you got to do the movement, and you got to keep nudging the numbers up. I'm working with a young man named Jordan, and he wants to increase his push-up. He's a young kid, and he can do 15 push-ups. So what he's been doing is been going into his bedroom and trying to beat 15 push-ups every day, and all it's doing is making him sore and tired. So I told him, a couple times a day, do 3 or 5 push-ups and just try to add up the volume. And don't even try to increase your push-ups for about 2 weeks. Then after 2 weeks of 3 to 5 push-ups, anywhere from twice to 10 times a day, test your push-up. Well, of course, it went through the roof, because when you're training body weight, the practice with no failure is probably more important than the actual, killing yourself. So when it comes to push-ups, pull-ups, any other calisthenic thing, little and often over the long haul. Coach Ralph Maughan said that to me, 1977. Little and often over the long haul. Now we use the word grease the groove on these a little bit, but it's the same thing. Whatever body weight exercise, calisthenic exercise you want to improve, stay way away from fatigue, stay way away from failure, and just get those reps in. Just practice. It's like typing. The more you type over time, the better typist you become. It's like being a car driver. When you first get a new car, it's got all the buttons, you can't figure things out. 6 months later, you effortlessly do all this stuff. If you need to get your wipers on, it's this thing, you gotta this, that. So take your time learning on body weight exercise. Can you also increase your bench at the same time? Yeah, absolutely. That's what we did in high school. There's a couple of ways to go about increasing your bench. I still like the idea of, greasing the groove. That's what I did in high school. I benched I benched every day. 5 days a week I benched at school. And then at home, 3 nights a week, I did incline bench. So I had 8 bench sessions a week or more. And miraculously, my bench went through the ceiling. In hindsight, which I don't like, because I'm glad I made those mistakes, because I got to learn from them. If you do something like what Joran Svensson and I were doing, where you take 2 bench sessions a day, and one of the bench sessions is kind of more a volume. I'm just going to make up numbers here, but yeah, that might be too many. But I'll just going to say what I thought. Day 1 is 5 sets of 10, and you just get the volume up. And if someone's going to ask, what if I do 10 sets of 10? Well, good luck to you on that. That's really hard to recover from, but yeah, a lot of volume, make every rep. You don't do a set of 6 and your buddy deadlifts the weight off your chest for a set of 4. 10, 10, 10, 10, just get them done. And the other day of the week, this is 1990. This is an article I wrote in 1999. You go in and you go up to today's max. On that today's max, if someone touches the bar, that was a failure. On today's max, if you can, this is something I learned later, but think of, actually, so the 99 article got improved by a conversation I had with a really good lifter. And he said, if you're doing something like that, always go for today's double. So one day a week, high volume, the other day of the week, that big double. Here's why. It's fuzzy logic. Everybody lies about their max. Nobody lies about their doubles, generally. So if you're benching, so I'm just going to guess you're American here. If you're benching 300, your double might be what, 265, 275, 285, depending on how you're wired. So week 1, you get to 260, boom, boom, feel good about it. Week 2, you go to 270, boom, boom, feel good about it. If that double goes up, you know that your max is going up. And then every other break you get in the day, 3 to 5 push-ups or whatever's an appropriate number. That's how I would do it. I would do the second option, not the Dan John option of bench 5 days a week and incline 3, and then wonder why your shoulders hurt all the time. That's what I'd recommend, okay? That's a good question, Pat. Thank you. Okay, Dave asked a question. After a long hiatus from weightlifting, I finally got back on the platform and decided to run your Easy Strength for Olympic Lifting with Fat Loss program with the goals of losing some weight and getting back to some respectable weights on the bar. Well, Dave, thank you. And I do need a better name for that workout, but it's pretty self-explanatory by the time you finish saying that whole thing. After a week following the program, I'm loving it, but I have a few questions. Given the dynamic and mostly concentric nature of the two lifts, should the loads used be higher than what they would be in other easy strength programs when you're also getting that load during the eccentric portion of the movements? Boy, you're overthinking it. No, these are the Olympic lifts. Boom, put the weight down. I would probably start off lighter than you think on the easy strength with Olympic lifting fat loss program, okay? I'd start off lighter because what we're trying to do on this program is two things that aren't great. We're trying to get better at the Olympic lifts, and we're trying to, get our body fat numbers down. So we are chasing two rabbits. So what I'd like you to do is, in the program, it's real clear, never miss the weight, make the weight. So here's the issue we're going to run into in this conversation is when I say 3 sets of 3, mine go boom, 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 weight down, whew, boom, 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 weight down. Now, if you go boom, go get a drink of water, go check your iPhone, boom, go walk around the gym, watch what people are watching on the television monitors. If your triples take 5 minutes, where I think the 3 sets of 3 should take about 2 or 3 minutes, all 3 of them, then maybe that's an issue too. A lot of it is the quality of what you're doing. The second one, after years of chasing the pump, I'm worried that I may be neglecting my guns. And that is a great concern. And tip of the hat to you, my friend, because the guns are more important, which is why I generally have a workout in the week where I toss in suspension trainer curls and tricep extensions just to keep feeling good about my arms. I never train my arms. So for me, when I train my arms, it's like I'm cheating. So yeah. Would adding a handful of dead hang pull-ups during the bar hang and the warm-up be a good idea to keep my armaconda gains? And for the triceps, would a set of bottoms-up kettlebell press be appropriate? I would say yes to both things, but I do have a program that I like a lot that you snatch, you clean and jerk, you front squat. It's at Dan John University. In fact, all this stuff is at Dan John University. So I snatch, I clean and jerk, I front squat, and then I take off my lifting boots, I put on my walking shoes, and then I do clean and press, clean and press, clean and press, 3 sets, and then go. And that that continuous clean and press, for me, is one of the best arm builders I've ever done. Now, the way it's written in DJU in the books, I think I also have the variation of clean, press, press, press. But if you do the clean and press variation, you're going to work your guns, man. You're going to work your guns. Okay? Fun question. For those of you who are completely lost about this, pick up, go to easystrengthomnibook.com, go to danjohnuniversity.com/bookstore, join DJU. It's all in there with a lot more details and explanation. But this is a good question because I like, and the thing is, I hope I gave you truthful answers, because that whole thing you said about the guns, at first I was like, ah, and then I was like, yeah, man, that's big to you also. Yeah, you're right. Okay. Good question. Thank you. We got a question from Ethan. I'm a 32-year-old Navy veteran, and I've been a new fan of your work, particularly the kettlebell training. I feel like I have a good swing, clean press, Turkish getup, and goblet squat, but I really struggle with perfect snatch form. Your RKC prep workout on your website looks really appealing because I like the frequency, the complexes, and the ladders. Would this be a good training program for me to pursue? I have a home gym, and I like the 5-day-per-week schedule. I don't have aspirations to get an RKC certification, but I'd love to be able to complete the snatch test as a fitness goal. I got to tell you, Ethan, I get a lot of questions, and sometimes it's nice because I think you sort of answered your question in the question. You want to train 5 days a week? I have a program that asks for 5 days a week training. You want to improve your snatch, and I have a program that takes 12 weeks to do it. Yes, so my answer is a definitive yes, especially if you got the courage to be smart and try it. The only thing I can't really, I can imagine what your snatch work looks like, but I can't see it. So why don't you post your snatch technique on the forum there at Dan John University, and then I'll give you a chance. I'll give you a little bit of feedback there. That's the best advice I have for you. I don't know where you live or anything, but if you do have a good, if you do have an RKC around you, tell them I sent you and let me know. Half an hour with somebody might be all you need. 5 minutes with somebody might be all you need. Very often when I improve people's kettlebell snatch form, it's something very minor, but the impact is major. Anytime you have an issue with the ballistic movement, a smaller thing you overlook manifests itself bigly, if you will. I guess that's a word now. The small little issues can really kind of have big consequences. My number one thing for coaching people on the snatch technique is always think with the start of the rep is with the hand overhead, that waiter walk position, the top of the Turkish get-up or press. And then what I concentrate people on is an aggressive descent. Either, the push the milk out, unzip the zipper, the swimming movement. But it's got to be a harsh movement down that aggressively attacks the zipper, and it turns into that big hinge, and then you become a boom, boom, boom rocket to the top. The biggest flaws I see, there's two big flaws, but they kind of they're just opposite sides of the problem, is they cast the bell out way out there far, and so all the load magically just goes into the lower back, and it really hurts. And then when they bring the weight back up, they bring the load vertical, they cast the bell out too far ahead, and they have the same issue coming back. Once that issue is corrected, that I've had people tell me that they were told to do snatches in front of a wall. I don't know if I like that. I like the idea. I just don't want you hitting. If it hits the wall, it's going to do a lot of damage to the wall. And if it doesn't damage the wall, it bounces back and hits your face. I'm imagining a 24-kilo bell hitting your face is going to hurt. Now, remember, that's not medical advice. I'm just guessing here. So I like the idea, Ethan. Let me know how it goes. And I appreciate this. Thank you. Okay, we have a question from Adam. I've been lifting weights for several years. Well, if your name's Adam. Okay, that was an attempt at humor. But I still play adult softball and needed a program that allowed me to play ball without feeling beat up. Somehow I came across Dan John's Easy Strength. He seems like a nice man. I'm currently reading the book and I'm on my third cycle of the routine. Fantastic. So you actually read the book and followed up on it. I'm getting the vapors. I'm currently in the lean cut maintenance mode. After the season is done, I want to do a bulk, and I bought the Mass Made Simple and plan on using that routine, though I'm not looking forward to those squats. Nobody looks forward to those squats. They're really, 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 really hard. I tell you, you get to that rep number 30, and you got 20 to go, and your friends are cheering you on, and I don't know what switch I switch at about rep 30, but all of a sudden it becomes very important. My goal is to lean out to about 190. I'm 6'2". I've already read the majority of Mass Made Simple, but I don't see a recommendation on how to calculate the caloric intake. It's because I don't believe in that kind of thing, Adam. I believe on a mass program, you should consume excessive amounts of calories. Somebody online on the Amazon got on me for recommending peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. And I can tell the idiot didn't actually look at the book. This happens constantly. I've tried to do it with tuna fish. So you open up a can of tuna fish every couple hours and eat it. Dave Draper recommended it. I tried it. I can't eat a can of dry tuna fish every couple hours. And I challenge all of you good people to try it. It is hard to do that. It is so dry. I mean, add mayonnaise to it. That makes it better. And with garlic salt. I've tried hard-boiled eggs. Try to eat 2 or 3 hard-boiled eggs every couple hours. Oh, it's brutal. But now we have those high-protein peanut butters, and we have those high-fiber breads, and you just put a little bit of jelly on there, and you're getting the benefits of the protein and the fiber, but you're also putting down some calories. So Adam, when it comes to this, you just got to eat more. It's funny, when I was writing the book, Laree kept sending me back because I was recommending diets, and she kept telling me, no one's going to do this, no one's going to do that, and it was interesting. It was a great series of conversations we had. So I leave it a little open-ended. Do I believe in the calories in, calories out, like for fat loss and stuff? I mean, obviously that's what's true. I know that I lose weight every single day, from the moment I stop eating to the moment I start eating again, I'm losing weight. I'm blowing out carbon, and in that carbon is, remnants of my body fat. If the longer you fast, the more fat you burn, But is it calories in, calories out? Sure. But some of these new drugs people are taking, it's just changed the rules. And again, someone told me, yeah, that's true, but it just got back to calories in, calories out. I'm okay. When it comes to bulking up, I've seen some people get fairly massive on reasonably low levels of protein, and calories. But then I find out that there was other substances in the mix they forgot to tell me. For a 6-week bulk, do you recommend a target number of pounds? For example, if I get down to 190, should I look to gain about 20 pounds and then use an online weight gain calculator to fill out my macros? You can certainly do all that. I find for most people that the program naturally, the calories will naturally come in. If you actually do it the way it's designed, where you have the hard lift day, the recovery day, that kind of tonic day, hard lift, recovery, tonic, hard lift, it's going to be pretty natural. The key is that you've got to get those damn high rep back squats in, and they're brutal and they suck. You got to get the complexes in, and they just suck. They're not brutal. There's the big push on bench press, the big push on the one arm press, and then a couple of small things, the bird dog and a few other things that really just help you long term, kind of hold everything together. Generally, if you do the 6-week program, it's a little less than 20 pounds. Most people get about, none of my athletes ever did less than 10 pounds. Now, I also had the wonderful, tool of they were in puberty. So, that just feeds the monkey. But, general 14 pounds that's about where I hear most people land. I don't want to do a bell curve on this where you think, oh, some people put on 70 pounds and some people, only put 1 pound on. The number that comes up the most, I think that's called the mean, is 14. I hear 14 over and over and over again. But in that range, that 12 to 16 pound range is where most people kind of land. I do get people saying, yeah, and I also put on some fat. Well, it's a mass building program. And if you put on 16 pounds and 14 of it are muscle and 2 are fat, just walking around like a normal person for a week is going to burn those 2 pounds off because of the greater lean body mass. That's going to knock, if the research is true, it's going to knock your metabolism up. So, Mass Made Simple, you can get it all kind of places. It's a good book. I stand by it. I'm currently writing another book on hypertrophy because very few people want to do something that's hard. They don't want the 6-week, they want the lifetime. And I appreciate that. So I hope that helps, Adam. The other thing I would suggest, and this is the hardest thing, is that, and I learned this from my athletes, the first Mass Made Simple is good. It's a good program. Thank you. Yay. Great program. The second one was where the second time through, wait about 8 weeks between the two of them because you'll have dialed in certain things. Those high rep squat days, the first 2 or 3 weeks where you're just getting used to it, you take a light, it's all in the book, but you do like 95 pounds for a set of 30. Well, the second time through it, you're like, okay, this is just to get me mentally wired up for the hard workouts. So I like it. If all you did was the high rep back squats and the complexes, you'd probably get the bulk of what I'm asking you to do. But when you do everything, including those little tweaks, at the end of the 6 weeks, you know exactly what works for you. And by the way, the second time through, very often I tell people to rank it at the end. Very few people do that. And it's interesting because the thing that worked least for you is often the thing that works best for you the second time through. And I can't explain that except to say that the human body is a wonderful thing. Well, that's it for today. What a good group of questions. Episode 228 is finished. Remember, if you have a question, send it to podcast@danjohnuniversity.com. I'll do my best to answer each and every question. And until next time, let's all keep on lifting and learning. Thank you.